Well, hello. This is an installment of Places Unknown and Necessary. I decided for a random starting point for this segment of the channel to go over my selections for the 2023 Crunchyroll Anime Awards. Now, I have to say, the framing of the awards is controversial in the sense that um, as I understand it, the time frame they didn't include fall season of 2020. I am not going to litigate that because I don't know what I don't know, but I know there are segments that are whatever. I'm going to take it as is. With the caveat that in the fall I didn't really have that much chance to check out and dive in animes that I wanted to, animus. So we're just gonna take it as is and give you my evaluation. The caveat that this last year has been a year that I have not dived as deep as I want. But my opinions are up for you to stimulate discussion. I'm not a authority in anything. It's just some random old guy with gray hair who happens to like the animus and has opinions. And I will articulate my points and I hope, like I said, you'll take it or leave it. And we're just gonna go to my screen here and see what my selections are for these categories and my rationale. And I do hope this stimulates discussion and comments. And I don't, like I said, I would love to hear people's comments because I am not able to be honest, watch as much as I'd like. Maybe I need a long vacation. I tried this vacation, but life got complicated. So let's just go on these awards and nominees for this time period that apparently has nothing to do with the actual calendar of 2022. But like I said, because I know based on comments that it's basically biased towards some of my favorites, who are probably more mid mainstream to some of you, but. I'll talk about the merits of each based on technical things that I understand. And like I said, I have gaps in knowledge, and I do want to hear things that are not in my knowledge set. But I'm an open-minded fellow, and every time I see these award nominations, I always find out like a year ago, animes I hadn't seen, and I got into it. I'm just like, you know what? Let's dive into the categories and all the different nominees and find what are the really, I don't know, what's the word I should say, the hotness right now. Let's go into this is the order they present it, so it's not authoritative. I'm gonna talk about my votes, and hopefully you can see my screen. So, anime of the year for Crunchyroll, which has a bias. I mean, I was looking at this and I said, "Wow, wow, geez, interesting." Um, Now I have to say, of the six that are nominated, I've only seen three, and I have a good familiarity with the fourth. And in terms of trailers and fragments and what my other people, my family have been watching, and there's a two that I'm not familiar with in terms of actually watching them, but I know of just my, just like we all know of Pac-Man. We don't know them personally, so I have not seen the Cyberpunk Edge Runners. A lot of folks have been talking about it. Licorice Recoil, of course, did not see that, but it's on my list. So, and Spy Family is literally on my list, but I haven't got to it yet. So, but I want to take the course. The other three, which are Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, and Ranking of Kings, I've seen religiously, shall I say. And so for anime the year, let me explain that I'm going to have to be biased to the three that I have seen, with the caveat that if you're a fan of the other three, that I know I'm doing a disservice, but the bias is there. So let's present that I'm really limited to the three that I can make authoritative commentary on. As for anime of the year, we're talking about overall impact. So each of these three have different things, and I'm not I'll dwell more upon it in the other categories. And all three of these are close to my heart, for different reasons. Demon Slayer, I'll explain why later what hits about it. But also that's one of my bigger cosplays. My cosplay basically centers around Demon Slayer for several reasons. Again, personally, in terms of the whole issue, the katanas, all that. There's a lot of things going on that centers it for me. It's a simple, really thing. Grandma understands y'all gonna kill demons. Hey, that's an easy premise. Grandma's gonna say, "F those demons." So literally, my mom watches this with me and says, "F those demons." So it's easy. Attack on Titan, we know what it is. It's epic. It's got a lot of moving parts. But for anime of the year, I have to say we have to analyze it by the episodes in question, consistency, both in terms of quality of animation, storytelling, pacing, everything else. And while Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer brings you to heights, we're talking epic heights and deep storytelling and other elements. I have to say, Ranking of Kings is the boss. First of all, it actually has in core two, the second segment there, literally boss fight. And this is not a spoiler, but it's also something, if you know the anime, Wit Studio, who of course did Attack on Titan first three seasons, this project, this second core was a level up from the first core. Hey, I'm gonna tell you, if you haven't seen it, see it. In terms of consistency, episode after episode, consistency of quality of animation, storytelling, and just keeping you wanting more. I never got low. I mean, I gotta say, like and then just elements that work and click. And I mean, it's hard to imagine that this for some folks who aren't initiated, that an anime could beat Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer in certain sectors. But I'm gonna say Ranking of Kings, y'all. Booyah. Submitted. That is it. And it is because of consistency. If you haven't seen it, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you have to dive down and do it. There are elements in it, but it's about consistency. Quality of animation, level. It's here. Storytelling, character development. It never ever kind of like lets you down. And Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, there are episodes that are about building up to the big fights. But Ranking of Kings, and there's more about it. Ranking of Kings will make you cry for joy and for sadness. But in this particular second segment, Ranking of Kings, anime of the year, come at me. Like I said, with the caveat that I didn't see all this. Now, in original anime, I have not seen all of. I've actually not seen any of these. Shame on me. But looking at this category, I've seen several of these things. These are things that I'm going to do some dives in based on some of my research. And I am not going to vote officially, but this one right here, I'm not going to vote because I'm not qualified to make this assessment. Um, but that one, look at I saw the trailers on, and this one too, Vampire in the Garden. I'm generally against vampires, but considerations. But I'm not going to vote because I can't really like do anything. And again, I mean, even the previous category was biased because I obviously was looking for things that I knew. But and anyway, I and this is interesting because the original anime are not, of course, manga based and all that, or so I'm going to put a pin on that. So I apologize. I'm not going to vote in that category, but let's go to best character design. Again, similarly, I have not seen all of these, but at least with Spy Family, given the visuals that have been presented, I can at least comment on character design. And say that what I've seen, of course, is excellent. I understand why it's been the thing. These two here, I have not seen, so I'm going to have to limit myself, and it's a bias. That the character design, again, this is Studio Trigger's effort in Cyberpunk, and in this case, Cloverworks' effort in My Dress Up Darling. On the list, I got to work a day job. But when we look at the four that I am familiar with, again, lesser extent Spy Family, but of course, Ufotable, and of course, the wonderful character designer Demon Slayer, and of course, Ranking of Kings, and of course, JoJo. JoJo has an unfair advantage. I will say that JoJo, of course, it's JoJo. Um, so that's why I have to say, not gonna be too critical, but with this particular installment of JoJo, I'm a religious JoJo back from the Speedwagon days kind of fan. We'll watch it. It's pleasurable. I enjoy it. It's not elevating to me, but I feel like I have to follow it through. Character design, of course, is great because you have a lot of good material. The source material is excellent to work with. Wit Studios' effort with Ranking of Kings, when you consider the palette of the characters, Wit Studios is a brilliant job. This is actually when you look at it's a contrast to JoJo, right? The character designs are simple, the palette is what it is, but the design is so excellent, and that's why it's worthy of consideration. I mean, it's beautiful, but the combination of both having an advantage and also execution. Demon Slayer, of course, freaking demons, okay, and Hashira, Haori, beautiful colors, but execution. So these two things factor in. I mean, JoJo has the beautiful um, kind of starting point, and the execution's solid. Ranking of Kings, it's a simple thing, but they execute it, I think, brilliantly. But here's where you have both. You have a fantastic initial character design for the manga combined with a brilliant execution. And so, Akira Matsushima, props. You get my vote for Demon Slayer's character design. Now, again, I haven't seen all of them, so you can all at me for the fact that I didn't know the other animes well enough to include them in that. So you can always say, "Hey, dude, you missed out," and I will confess that, and that's why. So best animation. So I interpret this category to be like the execution of the animation, and this now again, caveats. Edge Runners. Have not seen it. It looks pretty sharp. Studio Trigger is awesome, obviously, and Cloverworks. I've seen some of the work in some other venues. So again, they have a disadvantage because I haven't seen those. And so if you love the animation, you're gonna hate me and at me. I'll still respect you to say you're wrong, dude. The ones I have a vague familiarity with, Spy Family, I got some familiarity, but again, I can't have enough context. So again, I'm probably biased against it. The three, of course, I'm most familiar with. Hate me for it. Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, Ranking of Kings. In terms of animation, all three of these have such strengths and weaknesses in some cases. Um, and I'm not I actually should take it back. Ranking of Kings, probably their weaknesses are not that bad, and their strengths are strong. And Ranking of Kings, I almost went with this category. Attack on Titan, again, there's some marvelous execution. But here's what I'm gonna say about Demon Slayer, and people can either it is for moments, they have to be conscientious of their pencil mileage on this. And there are times where they take the anime manga shortcuts of X, Y, and Z, but when it comes to certain moves of there's no studio so far that I've seen that has consistently in one anime really executed 3D and 2D CG. So there are moments where CG is used in Demon Slayer and it's never jarring. You may know it's CG if you think about it, but it's never like to the detriment. And I will take the Pepsi challenge. I think Attack on Titan with Mappa Studio has done a decent job. I don't sweat them on anything, but there are moments where there's a delta on CG and whatever. Not the same with the previous seasons with Wit, but with Mappa it's close. But with Ufotable, the execution of 3D, 2D, CGI, whatever, it's always been good. But this season with the entertainment arc, it's been the only time it was vaguely distracting was maybe the fire in the entertainment district arc, but that fire was never. I understand it was stylized. I mean, I could buy into that. It looked different, but then again, we were going for a look. Beyond that, um, I just think they execute Ufotable's magnificent. To be honest, the Tengen fight with Gotaro and the whole, our crew versus the upper six. I don't know. It's got to be Demon Slayer. And we're talking about epsilons, a tiny increment, in my mind with Attack on Titan and Ranking of Kings. If Demon Slayer didn't, blow with Ufotable, brilliant use of CG. That's ultimately what it is where the 3D, the CG is basically to the benefit. It amps it up, and exactly. You can argue with me and I will take your criticisms on this, but y'all get that vote for me. And like I said, it's tough, man. It's a tough call. Best new series. This is where I suck. I'm not going to vote on this because, well, actually, I will vote. I will vote, and I'll explain why. Um, Spy Family's the hype because it's whatever. I did mention this is something I would. It's on my list right here. Licorice Recall here. That's and these guys, dress up darling, whatever. And this one here, your boy Kong Min is representing, I have to say, so all of these are actually on the list to execute. I mean, this is basically every week I try to do Spy Family and I'll get to it. But the rest of these, oh, just like, I need more days and lights. But here's what I will vote for on the basis of a trailer and an ED. And I'm voting for Call of the Night, and I'll explain why in the next rounds. Best continuing series. So here I'm actually going to frame it in terms of the best effort in continuing a series And while Demon Slayer has the hype from the execution of animation, and I love it, uh, it's about keeping a series going after previous iterations. And I did not, I've not seen the One Piece, so again, bias. So you come at me. Love War, yeah. I think I've only seen JoJo, Demon Slayer, and Attack on Titan. No, call me mainstream, whatever. And the JoJo execution was not the best execution of a continuing series. Sorry, Demon Slayer was good, but in terms of continuing a story, of course, and all I gotta say is rumbling. Back on Titan, continuing a saga. It's the execution of that continuation. Best OP. Boy, this was actually harder than you could imagine. And let me tell you what was the weakest, honestly, the weakest of this cadre. Pardon me, I'm getting like some messages calling it airstrikes. Um, After several iterations of listening to the OPs, I think with the OP, I don't actually have to know the series. It's about OP. It's about the OP serves two purposes. One, to get you in the mood for the anime. So if you know the anime, that's part of that equation. But also, it represents kind of like a hook. Like either you know of it or you don't know it, but you see this and you're hyped to see what it is. And so these are the two elements of an OP. And so obviously, if you know the anime, it is there's an advantage if I know the anime to see the OP and say, does it get me in the mood and does it hype me to be hooked into what the story is if I'm uninitiated? Those are the two elements. And then the third element, I should say, is the song good? Is the song like, a banger? Can you like put in your car and do this as you drive? So this is a complicated equation, but let me tell you what honestly was underwhelming and not bad, but underwhelming was what was the Demon Slayer OP for this arc for the it was like doesn't nah didn't elevate. But you didn't need to because you're effing Demon Slayer. Grandma's waiting to watch this stuff because she wants to see those demons get their head cut off because of her childhood experiences. She all about that mirth and demons. She don't care what the OP's about. She like skip that intro, cut that demon's head off because grandma wants that demon right there. Grandma, she got a lot of issues. I did not see like at the Cyberpunk Edge Runners, but the song is a for This Is Fire is actually a Franz Ferdinand song, and I saw the OP and it's pretty well executed, man. I mean, it's a retread of a song, and I mean, I was like, dang, delicious. Uh yeah, I mean, seriously, that's it. This is a hard category. And of course I went with, I saw the Spy Family OP and it was like, right? Yeah. It got me in the mood. I haven't even seen the anime. I'm already like prime. Man, this is tough. And then my considered the dark horse that I had no preconditions. This OP has a and it's got a nomination, has primed me to check out your boy Kong Ming, get that warlord action, right? And it's a pop song. I mean, if you don't know this, just check it out and just it's solid and the moves again, it's the visual and the song. The song, okay, good song, but also the visuals and the dance moves, and it primes you for what it is. It gets you hype, and that's why I say this one was like the snuck up on me. It was like, okay, now that's on my list of what to do. And then it became for me this showdown between Ranking of Kings and Attack on Titan. Um, I have to say, animes that are near dear to my heart for different reasons. And I already, gave a nod to Ranking of Kings for Anime of the Year. Um, again for the overall package, and of course, I gave the nod toward Mappa's effort toward continuing the series Attack on Titan. So with the OP, again, it's two things. It's the music. And so when you compare the two songs, I will tell you that the Rumbling, that song, of course, is freaking metal. And the OP is the actual visuals and the priming of it. I mean, it is, man. I remember when it came out, when the season opened, and you're like, your little brain, like people's brains were resonating, like, but I have to say, Ranking of Kings. The song is not as, I mean, it's good. It's a great song. Rumbling is, if you listen to Rumbling, you can put that, you don't even need to see the OP. You can hear it and just rock out. And Naked Hero, that's a song. Well, it's a good song. It's not going to be, but it's the OP in terms of the visual, where they took a very good sample of the style of animation, with a little bit of flair, and they kind of upped it, and they combined I'm going to say that this is actually a better OP in terms of visual and song, and we'll come back to that later. And Naked Hero won it. So again, at me. There's a lot of factors in that, and again, you can disagree with me. You can weight things differently, come to a different conclusion, and I will respect your analysis on them. For me, it's a balance between visual, song, and then again the framing of, does it, into my mind, prime me for what's going to come in the show, and then of course the hook. If I'm uninitiated. And the beta test, of course, was my mom, who's like not much of an OP fan, but she hears but that ranking of kings thing, and she's like, oh my god, Boji, she's all fired up. So mom approved. The best best ending sequence, a toughie, a toughie, a toughie. And to be honest, my vote has changed in 24 hours. It's been, man, I got to tell you. So prefacing it by, I did listen to all these because with OPs and EDs, like I said, I tried to listen to all of them and give them equal weight based on whether I knew the series or not. So I tried to really focus on the songs from the anime I'm not as familiar with. So of course, Attack on Titan I know very well. I'm going to put a pin on that for now. And the one from Spy Family, again, wonderful ending. Really great. The ending does a little different job than the OP. It can be a kind of a tilt on the head for sometimes. Again, a good example is what Jujutsu Kaisen did previous season. In terms of let's give it like a different spin on things. It doesn't have to be pure to the anime. It has to be. It could be any number of things you try to achieve. Palate cleanser, another view, or philosophical reflection on the subject matter, or just like a goofball thing. And I listened to all of these, and I thoroughly enjoyed them, both as song and visual. The Komi one, the Dress Up Darling, all of this is great. This one here from Love Is War, I had a hard time finding online. Eventually, I found it. Solid, bangers, and then again the visuals are great. So it came down to two of them. The um, Attack on Titan's ending, which it was hard to top because of the visuals combined with the song, and it was for me the original like winner of this thing. But then, 24 hours later, um, you know, I I can't say reflected, dove down, listened to the original version, long version from the artist, Creepy Nuts, and then kind of knew the backstory and the feedback loop on this, and then showed it to some friends and saw their responses and their energy, including some of my other fellow dark artists of the night. I'm an astronomer by training. My vampire friend said this is it. And then, considering if you were listening to my car to the point where people in my town were looking at me like shaking their head like, oh, he's listening to that Call of the Night, right? The Creepy Nut song. The ED category. There it is. Oops, I just kind of goofed. I know what happened to my thing. Call of the Night, the ending, that song, the visuals, particularly the visuals associated with that, I have to say, man, that's it. I voted. Okay. Reflected. Okay. Something happened, that glitch. That's it. I'm gonna say, sorry, Attack on Titan. I love your song. I love your visuals, but the visuals that go with that are also fire. So I mean, Call the Night. I'm gonna leave it at that. And that's on my list of number ones. I gotta like, get some freaking, VPN to get that thing and basically access Call of the Night, and or steal a manga from the library, or God knows what, man. I normally don't dig vampires, but you know what? I'll give this vampire action a try. And and she can carry me all over, the cities of Japan in her arms, and you know, it's love. Okay. I'll leave it at that. nobody heard that. Best score. So the score, of course, is all the music composed for overall series. Biases, of course, are here, as I told you. You know, do not know the series. For instance, Made in Abyss, heard about it. Don't know the music. Probably pretty good from what I've heard. Again, similarly, your boy Kung Ming, have not heard it as a whole. And same thing, of course, Cyberpunk, its composition. I've heard fragments of it, but again, as an overall. Wit Studios for Spy Game, don't know it. The only two I'm very familiar with are, of course, Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer. But based on, I have to say, the compositions of the soundtrack of the OST, the orchestral arrangements, which are mainly by Yamamoto, which is the disciple of Sawano from the previous seasons, the rehash of Ashes on Fire, 2,000 years ago, some of the other stuff. I mean, it's freaking epic, and the music is consistent with it. Best film. I'm going to absent myself from this because I've not seen these films, and it's not fair to me to comment on things or the feature length because the feature length format's different. So I'm going to just skip that. Respect. Can't really sum that. Best anime song, and of course, this is just the song, not in the context. So it could be song as an overall, in the context of whatever part of the soundtrack, ED, whatever. But this is about a freaking song, and I listen to these songs, all of them, and I'm just gonna, you know, I have props to your boy over here, but it's a pop song. It's cool. The visuals are what made that OP compelling, but a standalone song. This is a song that went to #1 on the Billboard metal charts, and you don't need to be an anime fan to fricking just want to rumble. So the rumbling has begun. Best director. Let me synthesize this. You're directing an anime. It's more than one component. It's all of the elements and complexity of stories. And so again, don't know Spy Family well enough. Um, Licorice, I don't know enough, and of course, Cyberpunk. It's again between my three children here. Demon Slayer, Ranking of Kings, and Attack on Titan. Of the three that seem to be popping up over and over again, based on the way they slice the timing of this. Um, when I really think about it, um, the direction of the three that I'm most familiar with have elements that are very complicated and well executed. Um, but I think a lot of the thing with Demon Slayer is in the story, in keeping true to the manga and deviating or eliminating parts I'm not as familiar with, but I know while solid, a lot of it comes from the visual storytelling of it. Story itself, there's a few moments where they bounce between different storylines and this and that. And but it's not as complicated as Ranking of Kings and Attack on Titan because you have multiple storylines of both those things and you're managing that. And yes, there are multiple storylines in Demon Slayer, but not the level of complexity where Ranking of Kings has an element of mystery and a lot of things that are hidden. Not to the extent of Demon Slayer. I mean, there's some hidden elements, but they're not as deep. I think even as Ranking of Kings, man, the Ranking of Kings has a lot of deep, complex things in terms of storytelling and multiple arcs and Ranking of Kings does a good job of showing, not telling. And I have to say the direction in Ranking of Kings, I think, is superior in my mind to Demon Slayer. That's not to say it's not, again, it's a better or worse anime. It's just like the execution of it is still amazing. So it's like, you're splitting hairs there, but in terms of coordinating, I think a director is coordinating all these elements. And I think, Ranking of Kings success, is a bigger accomplishment than Demon Slayer. Um, and then when I look though at Attack on Titan, even with weaknesses, it's a next level on that. So and it was a split in hairs between Ranking of Kings because it has its own subtleties and things, but with in the way I look at it is with Demon Slayer has an epic quality to it, right? Epic visual quality to it, epic elements. You have to coordinate. So in one case, there's technical and story arc aspects that are complicated, but in terms of actual, not story arc, but I would say technical aspects of Demon Slayer are a challenge, but storytelling elements in Ranking of Kings are way more complicated. I feel. I think Mappa's efforts, and in this case Hayashi's efforts to direct both a visual palette of complexity and a storytelling level of complexity, while not perfect, it is so hard to blow and screw the hell up that it's because those two elements are gigantor that, if it weren't for Attack on Titan, I'd probably be leaning more toward Ranking of Kings. Um, and I think, Ranking of Kings has some things that are more complicated on one end, but I just think if you look at it as an amalgam of directing and looking at a project, it's an epic project. Attack on Titan's gigantor project, and like I said, not failing is in itself a, a victory. Best main character. So the main character, of course, is sometimes in this case they last year I did protagonist and antagonist. So there's a reason why I think they're doing it this year. So no spoilers. I'm just gonna cut to who I think is the best character. And again, with the fact that I've only actually know two out of the four. So in this case, I am not and this is a big bias, but I'm gonna say in terms of a character development for the segment under evaluation, because remember, in this case for Ranking of Kings, we've only seen, two cores of a series, and in this case, the second half is the big part of development of the lead character Boji. Um, Watch the anime, you'll understand why it's not even a question, despite the fact Eren Yeager's a larger than life character. The fact that I'm selecting Boji over Eren Yeager, um, if you know me personally, in terms of both my merch ownings and everything else, but I'm just saying, like, though he's small, he be mighty. Boji. And if you don't know why, watch it. And it's interesting if you watch Ranking of Kings. There's some interesting things about that in terms of its connection to Attack on Titan, which I'll mention in a moment. But Boji is the beats Jaeger. Best supporting character. Oh, so interesting. Again, biased because I don't know all the characters from these shows. I only know two out of the four series very well. So, but in terms of supporting character, in the sense that they are truly supporting the main character, a character that supports the main character literally and figuratively, and the voice acting. And I have to say, all due respect for Tengen, epic boss fights, but in terms of a character, Tengen has the moments, but Kage is more subtle, complicated, and he's a dude, man. He's a bro. Kage, which means shadow, I believe, roughly translated. Ranking of Kings, y'all, just don't even. It is what it is. So best supporting character, Kage from Ranking of Kings, voted, established. Now, was such a slam dunk. I don't even need to see other anime. I should say, maybe Enya Forger people have talked about. I will let you know if I'm going to stand corrected in a few weeks or months. I know she's a contender from what I've seen. I don't know the other folk, from our anime, Sir Komi, Dress Up, and of course our good friend here from Kotaro Sato. Looks good. I mean, I want to protect. I will protect that, but I mean, must protect at all costs. Kage, I'll protect him, but dude, Boji, dude, not only must you protect, many characters in the show. I'm not going to spoil it. Just protect, okay? No, no. The best action. Action, of course, means I took it as two ways. I mean, like the action itself, but also as an action, anime. But we have to talk about straight up action, and this became interesting for me because I was studying it, looking at it, not knowing all the animes here, only three out of the six, but seeing a bit of Spy Family and thinking the action looked pretty good. But when you look at JoJo, and I don't know. There is action, but best action, has to be about impact, about elements. Yeah, that stand of the week thing formula gets old, I gotta say. So let's talk about Demon Slayer versus Attack on Titan. Let's just break it down. Action. Um, that's how this was the hardest. I have to say it was harder because, you know, um, the action Attack on Titan, versus, I mean, this is where this is hard. It's really hard. And I think I've gone back and forth and back and forth about it. We look at the key fights and the key elements. At the end of the day, it boils down to specific fights. And so obviously toward the end we get the fights between Demon Slayer versus the upper moon segment versus our Demon Slayer core, including Hashira. And while the action, boy, this is tough. Um yeah, the action's good. Um but there's gonna say the one thing that edged Attack on Titan was that there were different multiple action segments. So we had at several points. Well, there were action moments. Obviously, we had the Battle of Parody before, and then of course, well, the rumbling itself, um and so that alone, I compared that element, the pre-rumbling elements. No, hopefully not spoiling anybody. Demon Slayer was going to win if it weren't for that. But then the last element of Attack on Titan was, of course, the battle in the harbor and the elements there. And the edge. This is an incremental edge in terms of action. I mean, Mikasa versus the Jaegerists. Yeah, that's all I got to say in the matter. And so, if you don't know, then access best comedy, not qualified to actually. Yeah, because I got to watch these two. So, I'm not qualified. So I'm going to skip this because it's not fair for me to qualify why I haven't. So I got to stop being so serious and look at some comedies. Best drama of so again, drama is about the dramatic impact. And this is unfair because, not seeing all of these, I'm just going to get cut to the chase, a Titan because, it's all about the drama. Jesus. I mean, all I got to say is 2000 years ago. The ones, so going back to that, I know I skipped it. With Attack on Titan winning best drama was Ymir Eren. 2000 years. Done. Okay, I'm done. That's none at me. Best fantasy. So this is to interpret, of course, the fantasy genre and things that are involving, of course, our D&D friends. So I only know three of the six. So Sumi, of course, Demon Slayer being fantasy in the broadest sense because, most people don't believe demons are real. You and I know better since you and I have been out at night and seen the night demons. They are among us. So let's just, not talk about that. We'll go on another separate channel on that. So Demon Slayer with demons not being real. Hey Doug. Um, it's considered fantasy. Cool. Solid. Okay. Um, Overlord, which one of my favorites, which is in those guilty pleasures, you know, the roll for damage, basically. Overload, the fourth element, the fourth series of this fourth season, which is got elements, but it's not. I mean, I'm not gonna oversell it. It's a soft. Ainz is a I don't know. I have a soft spot for Overlord, and um, I do think it's one of the better fantasies out there, but I can't put it up against Ranking of Kings. Ranking of Kings is basically, I can't explain it, but it's like basically takes those elements of it and inverts it, puts it, recodifies it, but still holds true to those fantasy elements. Um, yeah, I mean, they execute. That's all I'm gonna say on that. And of course, this is not even beyond Boji because the whole series has to be good. And Boji's excellent. Romance. Again, caveat. Probably what I'm going to do is Solar Infer and BS, but just because of the fact that Call of the Night is basically wanting me to be in love with a vampire, I'm going to just vote for it. Okay, that's it. Okay, I'm probably not qualified to make that vote. Voice performance Japanese. only familiar with three of these in depth, and I've heard a little bit of Spy Family voice acting, but of the three I'm most familiar with, I'm going to say this. I'm going to vote for this actor. Of course, our friend Eren Yeager's voice actor. Here's what I'm going to say about the voice actor for Eren Yeager. He was actually the voice for Daida in Ranking of Kings in the Japanese, of course, in the native Japanese interpretation. So listen to Ranking of Kings and listen to Daida, Prince Daida, Prince slash King Daida, and his voice performances. And there are a couple of moments where you get that inner Eren Yeager, and that's like fire. So this voice actor, Yuki Kaiji, as far as I'm concerned, I'm voting for both of those. He can voice actor for these two roles in the same, season of animation that were basically like, you know, yeah, he wins. He's the king. And they did an English version of it. I don't know the English. I don't do dubs, so I'm sure they're all great. Respect, but whatever. That's my thing. That's my thing. I don't know, man. Let's argue or whatever. Um, like I said, there's a lot to be said about these things in terms of your opinion. I want to hear it. So what this anime awards did a year ago was tune me on to a few things. I saw the nominations. I saw that there was Ranking of Kings, Odd Taxi, a few other things. I started checking those out. So of course, Call of the Night's calling me, a few other things. Your boy over there, still got Spy Family in the rotation. I know everyone likes it, and it looks like a solid production. Again, Wit Studio, of course, for those of you who do or don't know, of course, Wit Studio, who does Ranking of Kings, was the original studio for the first three seasons of Attack on Titan. So it's not surprising that we have um, a quality of animation. So if you haven't seen Ranking of Kings, y'all gotta check it out. I know it didn't look like it was hype at first, but give it some time. Those of you, I mean, it's rewarding. And like I said, I want to hear anything you have to say. This is me spitballing. I gotta go. Get ready for tomorrow. Long day. I've got a lot of long weekend of work and fun. I hope you're doing well, and welcome to this episode of Places Unknown and Necessary. And I hope to see you guys soon out there somewhere. Peace.